Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this May 14th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon, and we're also on the EOA network. And here in just a little bit, we're going to have Professor Patty Barfield from the OHSU School of Nursing. Her specialty is in the area of children's mental health, and she's going to be talking to us. So, how are you, man?
Good morning. Second Monday.
Second Monday. The weather's nice.
That's very true. And it's, I had to turn the AC on.
Yeah, no, it's that time of the year where it gets too hot in the office or it gets too hot and you got to turn the AC on and off.
Definitely had to.
Yeah,
for sure. Like I live upstairs, so it's like, the heat rises.
You think we're going to get any more rain? Think we're going to get any more snow?
Not down here. Maybe up there.
Yeah, maybe a skiff every once in a while.
But there's a lot of mushrooms right now. Morels are going crazy.
That's what Kelsey was out this weekend and said that, there was a ton. I think they said in an hour they picked like 2.5 gallons or something like that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's like gold right there.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yep. Well, hey, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
All right.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Go check it out. Go check out their showroom. The Daggett family, man, they do a lot for this community, especially around youth sports and coaching and, donating money. So go check out what they got at this awesome furniture store. Big Red Rocking Chair on Elm, off Adams in LeGrand. LHS softball will end up second in the GOL after losing twice to Pendleton on Friday. They lost 3-13 and 6-8. The Lady Tigers will play Weston McEwen today down at Optimus at 4 p.m. and that'll finish and then they'll finish their season at home on Saturday. And it'll be senior day against Enterprise Joseph Olawa, that combined team. And then we'll see where they go from there. It looks like tentatively that they'll have probably a home playoff game sometime next week. As soon as I hear, I'll let you guys know. LHS baseball also dropped both of theirs games to Pendleton on Friday, 3-6 and 5-10. That dropped their record to 7-5 in the GOL. They finished their regular season today as well, down at Optimus versus that joint team of Joseph, Enterprise, Wallowa at 4 o'clock. And like I said about the playoff stuff, as soon as I have more information, I'll get it passed on to you guys. Congratulations to EOU Track and Field. Both men's and women's team win the CCC for the first time ever. Like both of them winning it in the same year. And that's just a credit to Coach Welch. He was named Coach of the Year for both the men's and the women's, and that's not like unseen territory for him. I don't even know how many he has, but he has a lot of them. TJ Davis won the 110-meter hurdles. Kenna Woodward won the hammer and the disc for the women. Hunter Nichols won the 1,500 and the 5K for the men. Justin Ash won the 3,000-meter steeplechase, and the team of Karina DeYoung, Sydney Peck, Lauren Mitchell, and Taylor Joyce won the 4x100. Taylor Joyce also won the 400 as well. Tanner Nett won the shot put, and Tyler Jones won the high jump. That's a lot of champs. I mean, that's a pretty good season if you ask me. I'll have head coach Ben Welch along with women's 400 champion Taylor Joyce and men's 110 hurdles and decathlon and 2023 indoor heptathlon national champ TJ Davis on the sports show tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to get all three of those people wrangled in the next couple of days and get a show out with interviews with them. That'll be really cool. EOU softball plays in the national championship opening round here in like an hour. Starts at 9 o'clock Pacific time. They're playing Spring Arbor, Michigan in Lawrenceville, Georgia. The opening round is a 5-team double elimination tournament. So if they win, they play tomorrow at 9 PST, and if they lose, they play at 11:30 tomorrow. So I mean, EOU's the 1 seed. They're playing the Spring Arbor team. We haven't seen any of these teams from the east side of the United States. You know, we make a California trip, but we don't really play a lot of teams from outside of the West Coast, but I think we're going to handle this just fine. All the first round games are free to watch on YouTube, and I'll post a link in the comments after the show. It's cool that at least some schools in the NAIA aren't stuck in these stretch contracts, so they can actually play sports on their own YouTube channel. And it's cool when there's like a school in the national championship, like in the early rounds, that's hosting, because the host school is the one that puts out the games. And if they're a YouTube school, then that means everybody gets to watch them for free. And Georgia Gwinnett just happens to be a YouTube school, so it's awesome. I love it. Friday, I sat down with Coach Christian. We had a chat about the season. It's available to watch anywhere on our network. Here's a little peek.
I don't feel like you can do that in our roster. You've got 1 through 9, you know, at any given time can lay down a bunt, that can hit, that can, you know, go for a home run. You look down our lineup and we've got girls multiple with home runs.
So pitching around people get you.
You just can't pitch around us. Right. And, you know, and that's what I love about them. Like, we don't have that. What kind of is the one factor that defines us? We have great pitching. I feel like our hitting has improved over the years that I've been here in 5 years. And then we've always tried to have great defense behind our pitchers. And so it's just this year as a whole, and we always say it, 1 through 25 players that we have, we are just better. And they get along and they want to be there. They want to compete. They want to win. You know, and that's what I love about them.
Well, that was a great interview right there with head coach Nicole Christian. I also sat down with Kelly Monahan and Kate Evans from the softball team. Coach Christian, in that interview, she said, so she was on according to her, the second best EOU softball team ever. It's in the Hall of Fame, because she said that this team this year is better than the 2000 team that ended up 4th in the nation and is a Hall of Fame team at EOU. And I mean, those are big words, but I mean, she's one of the ones that would be able to say it. You know what I mean? She was on that team, and she basically came out and said, no, she didn't basically. She did come out and say that this team this year is better than that team, which is awfully bold. I mean, she's got a lot of friends that I'm sure watch this, and they know, like, I'm sure she got some texts about that for sure. Here's a look at the schedule for EOU sports this week, thanks to EOU Athletics. And don't forget, like I said, tomorrow, Ben Welch, Taylor Joyce, and TJ Davis on the sports show. AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. They want to make you comfortable in your own home.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And so the team that EOU softball play, what is their seed? The team that
I think they're like the 4 seed.
Okay.
We got a bye in the first round.
Okay.
So in a 5-team pod tournament like that,
yeah.
the first seed gets a bye, and then 2 plays 5, 3 plays 4,
okay.
And then the winner of, I don't know exactly how it works, but the winner moves on and plays the 1 seed of one of those sides, and then
okay.
You have to lose twice to be out. And
okay.
we have a really good chance at making it to the final site. I mean, we need to win 3 games, and we're there. So
then do they have? But all of these teams playing in the same city?
No.
So only these.
They don't
top
play
5.
in the same city until the final site.
Okay.
There's 10 different places where there's 48 teams. So there's two pods or areas that only have 4.
Okay.
And then all the rest have 5, and there's 10 different locations where they're playing.
All right.
And the winner of each moves to the final site. So you end up with
and where's
10
the
teams
final
at
site
the final site.
Know?
It's in Georgia.
Okay.
It's in Georgia.
And this all happens just simultaneously. I mean, just
they're all playing. I mean, they're all playing right now in different spots. Yeah.
Right, but I mean, when does will EOU come back and then have to make another trip?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Most likely. I mean, I think that it ends up working out like that. I don't think they jam it like right off the back end of it. I think it's like they have a few days, and maybe not. I mean, I don't know. We haven't been there since 2000, and back then. Well, I mean, we actually went a couple years ago, but we didn't make the final site. But back then in 2000, it was just the top 16 teams they took in the country and threw them in a tournament. It used to be called the NAIA Softball World Series.
Okay.
And now it's just called the NAIA Softball National Championship Tournament.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Cool. Well,
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
9 o'clock today, our time. And I'll put the YouTube link in the comments after the show here.
all right. Cool. Well, let's look outside. It was beautiful this morning, sun shining. And, yep, there's a squirrel crossing the street there. And let's look at the weather.
Right there.
Yep.
Oh, you saw that live. I'm watching it behind.
are
That's
you?
funny. Yeah. I was watching it on the actual
On the
YouTube, on the
replay,
actual
yeah.
feed. Yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah. A little late on my screen.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So 72 today, 42 tonight, and it looks like Wednesday and Thursday is going to be 70, 80, and then
No complaining here.
yeah. But even the weekend, Friday through Monday, it's in the mid 60s, but doesn't look like there's much moisture. So that's good.
Yeah.
It means that and you mentioned that. Are there any games or anything going on?
Yeah, I'll talk about it more on Thursday, but it's blue and gold this weekend.
Yeah.
So it's a big weekend for EOU. There's a golf tournament on Friday. There's a poker tournament. There's alumni games for men and women's soccer, and I want to say volleyball. And then the spring game for football will be on Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Oh, cool.
Which is blue and gold weekend.
Yeah. So
it's centered around the spring game.
It's a good weekend for good weather then.
It's a very good weekend for good weather. Yes.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
All righty. Well, cool. Well, Patty Barfield is with us today from the OHSU School of Nursing. I've intersected with Patty several times and every time enjoy the conversations that we have, and she'll be with us right after this. All right, we're back with Patty. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. You and I have had like several conversations, and every time we have one, it's just like super stimulating because you are a wealth of knowledge, and you've just had a lot of experience in different areas, and the conversation, I just always find it very interesting. And so we did a video a few years ago.
We did.
For recruitment, I think. Was it a recruitment for the School of Nursing?
For the School of Nursing Psychiatric Mental Health Nurse Practitioner Program.
Right.
Which we do have a delivery option in Union, Wallowa County area, Baker County as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where we first met, and then recently you spoke at Rotary.
I did.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks so much for being with us. And then after that conversation, then I said, hey, you really should be on the show. And yeah, I know you love these kind of things where there's a lot of light and you're the middle of the attention. Yeah. And this month is mental aware. Maybe you should say it.
So yeah, well, thank you for the kind words. I am an introvert by nature, so not my favorite place, but I have a super deep passion for children's mental health and children and families who experience mental health conditions. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, established 1949. Later in the early 2000s, they established Children's Mental Health Week and then a particular day. So just really an opportunity to draw awareness to children's mental health, some of the conditions, the concerns, and then resources.
So you are a nurse practitioner that specializes in mental health.
Right. I would say the short story is I'm a nurse.
Okay.
Yeah. But I am also a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner that specialized in pediatric mental health, right?
Wow. And so that is, and I didn't even, it wasn't really until we did that video that I realized that that's a thing.
It's a thing.
That's a thing. And not only is it a thing, but it's critical. And in our areas, and the whole point of the video that we did, it was like, yeah, if you want a job, I mean, there's a high likelihood of you being placed somewhere because there's such need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and broadly speaking, in the medical community, there aren't enough family physicians, there aren't enough child and adolescent psychiatrists, and so nurse practitioners are increasingly filling those roles, and especially in rural and underserved communities. So, psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners bring a real valuable skill set to the mental health team, the pediatric team, wherever they're at.
So tell me how you, give me the thumbnail version of where you were born and then kind of how you started into this field. Yeah.
So really old, so that is a long story, but I'll abbreviate it.
Okay.
I am native, fourth generation to Malheur County.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was raised in the Ontario area and went to college at several different places. I took the scenic route when it came to higher education, getting an associate degree, a bachelor's degree, a couple of master's degree, and then in 2017, my PhD. And really I'm towards the end, I've been a nurse for 43 years. Towards the end of my career, I thought, well, I should pay back, right? And so I moved into academia and came to work for OHSU School of Nursing 7 years ago.
So did you start as a traditional nurse?
Absolutely.
And then how did you migrate into the mental health portion of that?
Well, so I did. I started as an associate degree nurse from Blue Mountain Community College in Pendleton. Worked everywhere inside, outside the hospital. And I was actually working as a home care director, and I just felt really compelled to work in mental health. And I remember sitting down across the desk from my boss saying, okay, I'm leaving this job and I'm going to work in the prison because it was the only mental health job available to me. And the look on his face was like, are you crazy? Yeah. Yeah, and so that's where I started, in Snake River Correctional Institution, actually. And ironically, then later had some experience with children with mental illness, which really fed my interest in sort of moving upstream. So the population I took care of in the prison was psychiatric mental illness, the special management unit. And just hearing their stories and sort of their life trajectories really compelled me towards children's mental health, right? To get upstream, to sort of see if there's something we could do to prevent some of the problems that were downstream.
Wow. So give me an example of something that you might have seen as an adult, that how you can move upstream and prevent those. I mean, give me some kind of a thing so that I can get my head around how those things make a difference.
Yeah, and so really early recognition and early intervention are keys to better outcomes. So lots of stories around not diagnosed, misdiagnosed, mistreated, misunderstood, struggled in school, struggled at home, and then, sort of the decline from there. So just really moving upstream to make sure that we have good attention to mental health promotion and prevention in the pediatric population, education to families about what it looks like, what we can do to prevent some of the prognostic indicators. So for example, children with ADHD, which is my specialty, undiagnosed, untreated are more likely to have family conflict, deviant peer association, brushes with juvenile justice, more likely to not finish school. So there's just a lot of high risk wrapped around these kiddos if they don't have good support and some sort of treatment intervention.
Wow. So locally or in Eastern Oregon, then how would a family, I guess let's start in LeGrand first, since that's where, what local things can people plug their kids into? I mean, so if or what services are available for children here? Maybe let's start there.
Yeah, well, so even prevention, right, starts with really teaching your kids, give them language around mental health, around feelings, so they can express themselves, help teach them coping skills, role model, like, oh, you look sad, some days I feel sad. When I'm sad, I go for a walk. So there's a lot of little things we can do to prepare the kids, to give them that emotional language, the coping skills as sort of prevention. I think in school, teachers do a fabulous job of recognizing, a little off. I think school has some good interventions. And I think that here locally, so the pediatric office, right, any sort of primary care office is often the first presentation, and then community-based mental health for CHD is your community mental health center here. So all those entities have points of recognition and possible intervention.
So, I mean, you've raised 3 kids of your own.
I have.
Yeah. So, and there's a point in raising kids where it's just incredibly complicated and difficult. They're different ages. And, how does a parent know the difference between, oh, this is just a phase they're going through, and this is something that can be treated?
Yeah.
How does...
Yeah, and I think that's a really good question. And I will just say that part of my journey into pediatric mental health came from my own child's struggle, right? And just going through the system, and nobody knew what was happening and nobody knew what to do. And I thought, people should know what's happening and what to do. So I think there's always that cannot versus the will not. Can they not do what I'm asking them to do, or will they not do? And kids are typically both. But I think anytime there's a dramatic change in the child's behavior, so a change in mood, more irritable or sad, that lasts. A change in behavior, again, withdrawal or isolation, or complete change in peer group, that lasts. So you're kind of looking for changes in behavior that last and are distinctly different from that typical baseline of that child.
So there's a lot of people, and I'm probably one of them, that would listen to this conversation like, oh, we're too soft on kids, we're giving them a label early that they're carrying through their life, and now it's an excuse for them not to do one of 100 different things. And I know you don't feel that way, because you and I have talked about this. And so talk to me about that. How do we treat some of these things that really are legitimate things that need to be treated? And just me saying that is, kind of exposes. But but at the same time, we encourage kids on to be responsible, fully functioning people?
Yeah. So again, a really good question. I think keeping the long view, because I don't think it's either or, we're overdiagnosing or we're underdiagnosing. I think it's both. Okay. So really keeping that dualistic perspective of, like, children are getting labels. In some instances, that's good, because that compels them to treatment and better outcomes. In some instances, it may not be good if they take that diagnosis on as, their identity. And so there isn't a clear line. But I think just being open-minded that, like, the brain is a major organ, as is the heart, as is the pancreas, as are the lungs, and we don't have any hang-ups around treating major organ system illness, right? If you have heart disease, we treat that. How many people are in Lipitor? If you have, asthma, we have inhalers. So there's less stigma and hang-ups around that, probably because there are definitive tests that can be done to say, yes, you do or you do not. And psychiatry, we know, is gray. So that's sort of a long-winded non-response.
No, I loved it. No, and so you are the first one that I heard say that they've taken on their diagnosis as an identity.
Right.
Talk to me about what does that look like?
I hear it in the language, right? So, hey, would you like to go do this, teenager? Oh no, my crippling anxiety keeps me from that. And so my anxiety, they kind of own it, which is good to some degree in that they recognize, they're struggling with anxiety, right? They're nervous, they're fearful, they're anxious, they can't sleep, they have tummy aches, they have headaches, whatever. But at the same time, we have to help them learn to manage those symptoms. And so treatment, so part of that resistance in mental health diagnosis for children is like, you just want to drug my kid. And I'll tell you, there's no parent that I ever met, and I met a lot of parents, who, when they had that beautiful baby in their hands, thought, oh, I hope you have a mental illness one day, and I will treat you with medication. Like, nobody has that. And it's just not in your mental template. So I think that treatment resistance is part of this story. But those kids who really take on that diagnosis, I think it's okay to help them define what that is for them, and then move them on to, like, how do you manage it? Because how do you go on to have your lovely life, right? So we don't get stuck there.
Right.
And it becomes the reason why you can't do anything.
Right, and I'm thinking that as adults we do that too. I mean, it
Sure
might
we do.
not be mental illness, but maybe it's an experience that we came through, or something that was life-altering, or something that was difficult to overcome, whatever it might be, and that kind of becomes the badge that we wear.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a choice that we make.
Right, so how does us labeling ourselves keep us, how does that restrain us? How does that keep us from being something maybe beyond that?
I think it only restrains us if we let it restrain us, right? So you can say, I have fill in the blank condition, and this is how I manage it. So I think, as simple as like arthritis. If you have arthritis and you used to be an active long distance runner, and now you walk, right? So you just adapt. We adapt to whatever the limitations that we have, but we move forward with however we define the quality of our life.
So this is super interesting. One thing is going through my head is, we were talking about getting old before we started rolling, and I've often thought about like an astronaut who went to the moon, and they did so at the age of 35. So where do you go from there? I mean, their identity is like frozen when they're the age of 35, and many of them live until they're 80. It's not frozen, but I mean, I think we do that. Our events in our lives are different than that, but we kind of get stuck in that sometimes.
We can get stuck,
Yeah.
So I think in therapy we teach people to sort of package whatever it is, whether it's a condition or a problem. We identify it, we deal with it, we develop coping skills around it, and then we put it in a little box, and then we put it on the shelf. It is always there. You can always choose to pull it off the shelf, take it down, open the box, look at it like, oh yes, I have all these miserable symptoms. Okay, well, I'm going to put you back in the box, put the lid on, and shove you back on the shelf because I need to get on with my life.
Right.
They're just ways of managing, I guess.
Can you think of any stories where you saw somebody overcome? You saw somebody and they overcome an adult or a child or whatever it was, and they were able to do that successfully enough that there was something out there that was much bigger than what they ever imagined that they could become. I mean, can you think of anything like that?
Yeah, a million little stories around children and families really being successful in managing whatever the condition was, whether it's the kiddo who's really challenged with focus, concentration, and attention, struggling with those peer relations, doesn't listen or do anything mom or dad asks them to do at home. So kids with ADHD treated with symptom control, improving academics, improving their social skills, and reduce conflict generally within the home. So a lot of little stories like that. to about 2 years ago, I received an email out of the blue from a young man who I hadn't seen for 15 years. And he said, I just want to know that you were really impactful in my life as a child. I wish I would have listened to you. That was the funniest part of the story. But he was a young man who was placed in the foster care system, had a lot of problems with emotional and mood regulation. And we treated to some degree of success, but then you never know after they leave the pediatric practice where they go. Well, now he's a young dad, has a child of his own, and kind of reflecting back on the challenges that he had, and he's doing really well. So that, he overcome a lot of obstacles and barriers to do really well.
So the last time you and I talked, we talked about kids recovering from COVID, and them being conditioned by that, not having to put a lot of effort into school, in front of a screen, not being able to, or whatever, and then them adapting back to what was normal, but it wasn't normal for them,
Right.
So I guess the question I have is, how much of this stuff is just like, no, you gotta pick yourself back up and get out there? I mean, how much of it is just sheer will? I mean, and the parents are on the end of like booting their kids out of the house or whatever the case might be, There's a question in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, we talked, sick of talking about COVID. But it had a tremendous impact on children's mental health, and mostly because they lost the structure, like that daily routine of, I get up in the morning, I do this, I go to school, I come home. Their peer, and kids are all about peer relationships, like their social networks were disrupted. Families were super stressed from illness and or, finances, or in our case, we had nursing students who were also parents trying to learn their nursing studies online, because we had to switch to online school, while they helped to homeschool their children. It was super disruptive, and I think there's a lot of fallout. I say COVID has a long tail, not only in the physical symptomology, but the mental health. And I think I don't think we'll ever go back to the way it was before. I think we just will adjust and adapt to a new normal, which is, people are probably tired of hearing a new normal as well. But there are challenges. There are challenges with school attendance, right? As a parent, how do you get that angsty teen up and out of bed and to school in the morning when you have to be to work, an hour before they go?
Right.
I mean, there's just a lot of challenges that families face. So I think, short story long, people do the best they can do, right?
I hear everywhere we talk about the employment struggle right now.
Yep.
Even though unemployment is down, everybody knows that they're having troubles finding people. And this trend that I keep hearing about is the younger employees that are working. I mean, they'll come a day and then they just won't show up the next day, or they won't. I mean, I hear about it enough to know that there's a trend. Yeah. What happened there? Is there a trend?
Well, yeah, I think too we're seeing, I think in nursing there are 5 generations in the workforce. So we're seeing a real shift, generational change. The younger generation really values work-life balance. They have watched people work themselves, just to the end, and so they're like, no. And COVID, I think we really took stock of what really matters, right? What there were some good things around that, right? Slow us down, make us think what really matters. And there's just a different way of approaching work that they're going to take care of themselves. Yeah, so I just traveled, and everywhere we went, it was like, I'm sorry, fill in the blank, we're short-staffed.
Right.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a global thing. It's not just LeGrand. It's not just Union County. It's not just Oregon. Like, it's nationally. It's globally. There's a real shift in approach to school and work.
Yeah, we've talked several times how we think it's the device. We think it's the
So I think that COVID had like a genetic modification of laziness. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's just like all of a sudden people just didn't care about, you know, customer service especially. You go into a restaurant, and I'm not saying all, but I'm saying a lot, or you know, go through a fast food place, and your customer service is just terrible after COVID. I don't know. It's I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and Kyle has teenagers, kids.
I do.
Yeah.
I have two that were in high school. My middle kid was a freshman when COVID hit, and one that was in middle school. So my freshman, my son, he's a senior now, and you can totally tell. I mean, you know he's a COVID kid. You can just tell by his grades. I mean, he don't have great grades. They're not horrible, but before COVID, he was straight A's and was had no problems when it came to school. Thankfully, he has motivations outside of school. He's an athlete, so he has some stuff that motivates him. But COVID killed school for him. I mean, it was not good. Well, actually, for both of my younger kids.
Yeah, and that's their major institution, right? The job of a child is to learn, and so they typically do that at school. A couple things. So your kids are in sports. So we know that children in any kind of extracurricular activity, be it sports, clubs, whatever, have a higher level of well-being, are more intrinsically inside, innately motivated than extrinsically motivated, which is positive to change. So getting those kids involved in any kind of activities, a good health prevention, health promoting strategy. One program you have in LeGrand that I love is that Go ASAP, Get Outside After School Activity Program. I feel like this is the most amazing program ever. It is, because it takes kids who are not in sports, right, who really are kind of searching for a place to belong, puts them together and gets them outside. And there's growing, robust literature that outdoor nature exposure to children, and adults anyway, humans, is so good for our mental health. So. And LeGrand has an abundance of beautiful outdoors, right? Parks.
Those kids are the most at risk too. Like the most at risk kids are kids that aren't involved in sports, extracurricular. So that program is even more significant because it's grabbing on to kids that don't play baseball or that aren't in the
Absolutely,
band.
because sports aren't for everyone, and that's okay. But kids do need to feel connected. Kids who feel connected to a single adult have a lower suicide rate. Kids need to feel connected to their schools, to their families, to their communities, and just any way you can plug them in is a good thing.
So what program? Go ASAP?
Yes.
And who does that? Where's
Oh
it?
my gosh, it is like a secret hidden gem here in LeGrand. So it started with Kelly Rice McNeil at Eastern Oregon University.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's grown and gone on for them. It resides with LeGrand Middle School. EOU Rev Center operates it now.
Right.
We do have nursing students that are part of the program, but it's an amazing program. It's just a good model of like a rural place, right, with not a lot of resources. All the community partners that work together to make this program happen, and the really positive outcomes of the kids. So better self-efficacy, that belief that, oh, I can do this. Things that they didn't think they could do, they do now, so they have more confidence. Things that they could kind of do, but now they can do better, they have more competence. And those are all the building blocks of resilience, right? So is it sheer will? No, but building resilience isn't something that you're born with. You can build that. So through opportunities like those extracurricular activities, kids build in those resilient skills.
Well,
we have a video on their website actually.
Oh.
A Coffee with Will about Go ASAP.
Go ASAP. Okay. No, that is, there's a lot of great programs. We got, LeGrand High School does really, I don't know how many championships they've had in choir, football, sports. They've done really well, and all of those things pull in kids.
Yeah.
And they have something to identify with. And then And then we have other, Youth for Christ, Youth 360. There's a lot of other, and I know I'm forgetting something.
Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of
And all of those things are super good for people to plug into if they're plugged in, and all of that contributes to the health of the whole community.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think just some basic facts that 50% of all mental illness is onset before the age of 14.
Wow.
75% before the age of 24. So the bulk of mental health onset symptoms occur in the youth development.
Wow.
Only about half of them will receive treatment. So there's problems with the recognition, problems with engagement, right? Because early intervention, maybe it's as simple as providing them a program or maybe some counseling services to get them back up and fully functional. I think that medication is often a part of treatment, but it's only a single part. Like I say, we generally draw a pie. Medication is about 1/4 of that pie. Counseling is about 1/4 of that pie. That's just that basic self-care, good sleep, healthy appetite, physical activity, right? Things we do to stay healthy is part of it. And then the other little piece is like just what makes your soul sing, like what makes you happy, right? Do those things. And that's really a holistic approach to treatment of mental wellness. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a whole nother can of worms that I think that you can speak to, and that is the mental health crisis that everything's going on. I mean, and we've had law enforcement. They're here regularly talking about the issues and Measure 110 and how complicated that and but I hear often is the COVID, Measure 110, and the mental health crisis. All of those things have kind of formed a perfect storm.
Sure.
Is there a mental health crisis? Why do we have one now? How do we fix it? I know those are,
Yeah, I think I erroneously said publicly once that as long as the adults are okay, the children will be okay, because children really look to adults for their support and connection. And I think I was wrong, because it's really more complicated than that. And that there's biological things going on, psychological things, social things, environmental things. It is a perfect storm. And yes, there is a mental health crisis because the problem is greater than the resources, right? And so kids are really struggling. And there's no simple solution. It's all hands on deck. It's a village approach to just, taking the time to recognize and maybe help support someone that you see struggling.
So do you think because of COVID, because of all these things, there literally is more mental health issues that have emerged? There are more people with mental health issues?
Yeah, so I think it preceded COVID, right?
Okay.
Our problems were before COVID. COVID just amplified it. So COVID amplified a lot of things, especially for rural communities, so that social determinants of health, right? There's fewer resources in rural areas. So there's sometimes a delay in care, although not always. And I think 30%, there was a statistic, 30% more psychiatric visits to the emergency room. So ERs across the nation, a 30% increase in youth that came for psychiatric reasons.
Wow.
Post-COVID. Yeah, it is a lot. And so, again, I think just COVID has a long tail. It's going to be a while before we get to a level. And it's not just COVID that's going on, right? So you get climate change, which stresses kids out, right? And again, sadly, a lot of what stresses kids out has been politicized, weaponized, and so there's a lot of, there's no mental health crisis, kids just need to do that, or there's no climate change, we just need to do this. I think we just live in contentious times, and we're all part of the environment.
Yeah.
And so it affects us all, and kids too.
Right.
These things are not helping that.
That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother
They aren't.
Yeah, no, they're not.
You said it weaponized, and this is the catalyst of that.
Absolutely. And there's good data on the longer kids are on social media, electronic time, the worse mental health they have.
It has to
So,
be, right? It's got to be a
absolutely.
direct correlation.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And it saddens me. You go out to dinner and you see families sitting at a table and everybody's on their electronic device.
Right.
I was in a doctor's office one time.
Yes.
And every person in there was on their phone.
Yeah.
Even the lady behind the counter. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. We're losing our ability to just have good conversation, right? Just that person-to-person interaction without constantly attending to who liked what. Or, trying to reach. The thing with teens and social media is there's these ideal versions of what a girl, a boy, a non-specific gendered individual, like what you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to act, and we can't live up to the ideal, right? So that leaves us stressed.
Wow.
That goes across everything too, like all the way down to like specific athletes, say a wrestler's supposed to act and look this way, you know what I mean? It's not just by gender or
Yep.
the social group, or it's down all the way to like your cliques at school. It's crazy.
Wow. So, if you had some advice for parents out there to help their kids to be more healthy,
Yeah.
what would you? I mean, could you distill that into something that they could get a hold of?
Absolutely, and a lot of it they're already doing. They probably don't recognize. Just start the conversation around mental health early, right? So we talk to kids about exercising for their bodies, but we don't talk about things to keep our brains healthy, right? So have those early health conversations. Give them emotional language, so when they are experiencing some kind of emotion, right? Kids we have some really big feeling kids out there. Give them language for what they're feeling and then help them identify some coping strategies for that. I would say for teens, listen, just listen. Sometimes as parents, we try to reassure, like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, I don't really think that it was that big a deal.
Right,
like,
yeah.
we're trying to reassure them, which is nice, but at the same time, we are invalidating their experience. So they kind of shut off, like, you don't get me, you don't listen to me. So just listen, right? You don't have to solve the problem. You don't have to try to make them feel better. Just really be present. And then be intentional, like, put your phone down. Have a conversation with your kiddo, go for a walk, go family dinners, right, and natural meal time, which is really hard when you have like 5 kids and they're all in different sports, but just find those little moments to connect as a family. Yeah, it's simple.
So how do you distinguish? I mean, because there are times when, you have a 15-year-old kid,
Right.
boy, and he's supposed to mow the lawn, but he pulls out some emotional excuse. Maybe he's like, I don't want to, I'm crying. I mean,
Right.
15-year-old boys or 15-year-old kids, whatever it might be, they can load a whole bunch of stuff onto something that they don't want to do.
Sure.
So then how does the parent say, okay, I hear you, I understand you, now get your tail out the door and go do the job?
Yeah, I do not have the answers for those kids because I raised one of those kids, and it'd be as simple as like, did you brush your teeth? And my child would say yes. And then I would check the toothbrush and it's like, it's dry. And I'm like, well, your toothbrush is dry. And he said, I dried it.
Yeah, I use the blow dryer.
So, I think, again, you just do the best you can do, giving them choices. I think where parents struggle the most, so, okay, you can mow the lawn now or you can mow it in 30 minutes. And if it doesn't happen at all, consequence. So the biggest challenge is being consistent, right? Because they wear you down. They're smart. They watch you. They've got your number. They can push all your buttons. And I think just being consistent, say what you mean what you say, but also be willing to back up and say, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, I got that wrong, or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
and, I'm divorced, but I was lucky enough to have, I'm divorced and remarried, but I was lucky enough to be married when my kids were growing up. And somewhere along, we were on the same page. And so we were consistent.
Super helpful.
Yeah, and so then because you're right, kids wear you down, and
Yep.
at times you just got a tag team. It's like,
Yep.
I don't, but there's super strength in knowing, and even now, my ex and I have really good relationship.
Yep.
We're still parenting our adult children,
Yep.
and they know we're consistent as crap because they're going to get the same answer regardless. So, yeah, because
Super helpful.
yeah, I mean, I don't know
Super
how single
helpful.
parents
Yeah.
do that. I mean, it is like overwhelming. You know?
Yeah, well, I think find resources, find
Yeah.
people who can help support you. If you're not sure if your child is just kind of being challenging, and this too shall pass, go to your primary care provider, go to your pediatrician, and just have that conversation, right? Let them put it in context. Let them sort of do some assessment and evaluation.
So how did we, so when I was a teenager, lived in Wyoming, one of the things, we had a landscaping business in the summer, but we literally would sell coal. We would haul coal and sell it during the winter, and the Wyoming winters were cold. Okay, well, my brother and I, when we were teenagers, one of our responsibilities was we'd get gunny sacks and we'd sell lump coal by the gunny sack. Okay, well, it would be 20 degrees, 15 degrees, wind blowing, and we knew that, and we belly ached and we avoided it. And
Sure.
okay, so the question is, I guess, is how did the mental illness issues were probably the same then. I mean, there were the similar challenges then as what there is now, but there was no diagnosis of that. So what changed? Because anybody who is old will say, well, when I was a kid, you
Sure.
know. And that is the thing they say, that's the thing they throw out there to
Yep.
say, yeah, these kids these days.
Yeah, I've heard it a million times.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so
So-
the first thing I always say is you cannot compare your childhood to today's childhood because it is a completely different experience. So everything in their environment, completely different.
Okay.
We were not born digital natives. Kids of today, they are digital natives. Like their world, the things they are exposed to, the experiences that they have is so profoundly different, right? And the way our parents may have parented would not be acceptable today.
Right.
And you will hear that, the whole spare the rod, spoil the child. But, I think you can make a common sense argument that, that may solve the problem in the moment or tend to the issue in the moment, but that's not a good long-term strategy, right?
Okay.
So I think we can't compare. And I know it's frustrating, but everything's different. It's like apples and oranges now.
So then let's go back to that. So then say that, I had a good relationship with my father, but certainly, in the different situation, he could have disciplined us so severely that we would have done the task, but then when we moved out of the house, we didn't ever want to have anything to do with him again,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so is that, that we're not in that world any longer, hopefully. I don't know. So
Yeah.
continue that, draw those two worlds together with me. Is that what you're kind of saying is that, yeah, the damage that you could have with your parent or the resentment you carry with that and it affects you in other parts in your life.
And for some, it can. For others, it doesn't. I think, each child is born with a particular type of temperament and just way of being in the world that 10 children can be in the same environment, but they will have profoundly different experiences. So part of it is just that internal makeup. Yeah. I have no answers for parents. I think, just do your best. Reach out for your resources when you need them. But today's kids are raised in a fundamentally different world. And you think parenting has completely changed, right? So a lot of parents check in their kids' grades immediately on the phone, the app, the school platform that they use, and it's like, oh, you have a C- in PE, blah, 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 blah. Right, before, we had to wait to get our report card, and then if we were in trouble in school, we were in trouble in home, right? There was that direct correlation, but I was a latchkey kid, and I didn't know that was a thing until I was an adult, and they're like, oh, some kids, they're latchkey kids. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, oh, well, I was one of those, like a free range,
Right.
on my horse all day, no parental supervision, jumping down my horse into the river, swimming, having the time of my life. We would never let children do that today, right? Because the risks. So I think we have a heightened sense of risk assessment in children, well-being, and in society. So
And is that good or bad? And can we
I just think
can we
it
change
is.
that? I mean, can parents make?
Yeah.
And they do. Some parents make that choice of
Absolutely.
like, yeah, I'm going to let my kid take risks.
Well, and then you get and I don't remember exactly where, but a parent chose to let their young school-age children go to the park alone, and social services was called.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I again, I have no answers. I think it's good. There are some parents that ascribe to a little bit of high risk, so let them climb the tree. Worst case scenario, they're going to fall and they're going to break something.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. But some parents are not comfortable with that type of risk. So
Yeah.
individual situations, individual choice. Yeah.
I saw there's a
So it makes
social
life
media
interesting.
post that's going around, and the kid, the dad is talking to his son outside of the kitchen window, and the window is open, and the kid is outside, and the dad has locked him out of the house so that he could, and is like, go find something to do. Well, what am I going to do? I'm bored.
I'll see you when the
Yeah.
lights come on, Buster.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, and that was a similar experience to what I had as a kid. Maybe my brother and I would be at board and we'd be fighting, and pretty soon mom would shoo us out the front door and we'd lock, and we figured it out. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's a different era, but still there's a lot of benefit in locking the kid off of their phone or off of their gaming console or
yeah.
off of whatever it is that is capturing their attention.
Yeah, there's definitely some balance there of experience.
So
I would assume the most important thing, though, and you already said it, is consistency. Like for kids,
Absolutely.
That's it. It's just like I talk about. I think that might be the most important word in our whole society. Like you expect it when you go to a restaurant. You expect it when you go to a doctor. And when you're a parent, consistency is huge for a kid because they want that same reaction. You know what I mean?
Well, consistency provides security. So I know
100%.
what to expect from you when I do this because every time you've done that.
Yeah.
And it takes that, so the kid in the grocery line, right? Pitching a fit. And they learn, right? So how many times do they have to, or for how long do they have to kick, scream, I want a candy, I want a candy, I want a candy.
Before they get
Fine.
yeah.
Take your candy. And then okay, now the kid's like, yeah, I just got the last 10 minutes and I get a candy, right? So they're smart. I'm saying kids are smarter than we think they are. They're much more capable than we think they are. I think allowing them some space to experience some natural consequences, to make some choices while the price tag is small before they get out into the world, and the price tag of a mistake is really big, super important. But every family has to set that level of risk, I think, based on their own values. And
well, Patty, thank
Awesome.
you.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much. That's just
appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I always enjoy our conversations, and I know we could talk more because there's just other pockets here that we haven't explored. And
Yeah, and I would just say finally, I've learned to say there are not good parents and bad parents. There are effective parents and less effective parents. And
Yeah.
so, getting help to help your child thrive is okay and actually good, right?
yeah, I think intentional. Parents being intentional in what it is they're doing, and being consistent, and holding their kids accountable, but also being able to apologize. That's
Absolutely.
huge. Yeah, hey, I'm rethinking this, and maybe we need to change.
It's how they learn humility.
Right. Yeah, that is, and I could tell you stories how my life was changed just because someone who was very powerful, somebody that I respected, they didn't have to apologize to me at all,
Yeah.
and they did it anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Thank
man. You want to get us out of here?
Let's do it. On this day, May 14th, 1846, U.S. Congress votes in favor of President James K. Polk's request to declare war on Mexico over border disputes. On this day in 1861, Queen Victoria announces Britain's position of neutrality during the U.S. Civil War. On this day in 1958, the trademark for Velcro is registered. 1958. 2004, on this day, the final episode of Frasier on NBC is watched by 33 million people. That's a lot of people watching Frasier. And then today, Kendrick Lamar's song Not Like Us becomes his 4th #1 Billboard Hot 100 hit. The quote of the day comes... Wait, did I do those backwards? I did. I've never done that before. Wow. Quote of the day. We'll do it first. That's fine. W. Edwards Deming. A bad system will beat a good person every time. One more time. A bad system will beat a good person every time. And then the #1 movie on this day in 1984 is my favorite movie of all time, The Natural with Robert Redford. Roy Hobbs is the character that Robert Redford plays, and it's a classic baseball love story. It's my favorite movie ever.
Yep.
It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out sometime.
Yep.
9 o'clock. So here, right now, EOU softball is playing. I'll get it posted in the comments tomorrow. EOU track and field's Ben Welch, Taylor Joyce, and TJ Davis.
All right.
Yeah, we're out.
Yeah. Thank
See
you,
you on
Patty,
Thursday.
for being
Thank
with us.
you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.